thanks Lynda for coming in to talk with me tonight, and I hope you don't mind answering a few questions very frankly about your life and your lifestyle and your fashion. And
I'll be delighted.
Okay.
Not a problem. No.
So maybe we just start way at the beginning, and I'm just thinking, you know, what area you're from, where your parents brought you up.
Well, I'll describe like this. In the back bedroom of a working class house in West Dublin, a girl was born where a boy was celebrated. A 2-second decision, a brief look. What I was to bring into my life from them, had I known, I probably wouldn't have wanted to be born.
And maybe I'll get to that in a bit more depth in a wee while if you don't mind. But just as you were born into a family of...
A working class family in West Dublin, poor working class family, basic wage. You know, the dad's sometimes in work, sometimes out of work.
Were you an only child, Lynda?
No, there was another 6 brothers and 1 sister. I had a brother also who died at birth, didn't survive the very first child my mum had. Died.
And would you say you had a happy upbringing and you got on okay with your parents?
Oh, they were wonderful parents, wonderful hard-working parents. I've seen them crying at times because they wondered where the next dinner was going to come for, or who was going to get the next pair of shoes. That's literally the way it had to be done, like, you know. And
would you say you favoured one parent over another, or equally were they?
No, I didn't favour one over the other. I loved them both equally, and I've only good memories of both of them, like, you know, and I appreciate the struggle that they had to keep the teeth in their head, you know.
And are both your parents alive today?
No, they passed away both many years ago, you know. My dad died at home suddenly from a heart attack. He was in bed and he had it, and it was exactly 3 minutes to 8 when he passed away, because the clock stopped where he jumped up and pulled the wire out, and the clock stopped at that point where he jumped, you know. And my mum lived for many years after that, and she died from MRSA infection that wasn't known as being that then. She had an operation on her side and it never healed. And so eventually turned to cancer, you know.
So you would have fond memories of when they were alive.
Absolutely.
And when you were growing up, actually, as a child, do you think that your parents had something special in mind for you?
No, they had no more special things for me than they had for any of my other family, you know. They just wanted us all to survive and thrive, you know. They were good parents like that, like any good parents. They want all of their children equally to survive, you know. It's only a matter of surviving them days, whether you'd ever get to a college or not was a bit of luck.
Okay, so they treated you all fairly equally?
Yes, yeah, and that's the way I see it. I remember, like, you know, maybe some of my older siblings might have different memories, but that's the only memories I have of them are good memories. They've been there.
Yeah, sorry Lynda, just when you were a child yourself, when did you first realise that maybe there was something different about you having been brought up a boy?
Well, I think it was around 5 when I started having the feelings that, you know, something's wrong, something's there, like why I'm not like the other little girls. I started envying them a lot, like, you know, in their pretty little dresses and things like this, you know, and that's when I remember specifically feeling that way, like, you know, and I went very much into myself, you know.
And did your parents pick up on this at all? Did they treat you any differently? Did they acknowledge it?
No, I think I just got lost in the crowd, being a middle child, you know, and you know, nature, I suppose, was just keeping me dragging along. My father, I remember, years later, I think it was around 10 when he said that to me, that he thought I was different than these other boys. There's something about you. He says, you're not like my other sons. He says, yeah, but he said, I know you're going to find yourself someday, like, you know. He says, yeah, I think you're a special child. Now, I don't know if he knew something or thought something else, like, you know.
So he didn't mean it in a derogatory term, do you think? He said it with some measure of warmth and kindness?
No, he was very gentle. Very gentle. It gave me some kind of solace, like, you know, that I hoped he was going to come out and say, you know, you're a girl, you know, your child is, oh great, like, you know, does someone know? But it wasn't to be, like, you know, it wasn't to be.
So did you feel within yourself that you weren't a boy? Or how would you explain it?
Yeah, I just had a feeling I was never a boy. I was never a boy. I was a girl, but I didn't understand why I looked different than the other little girls, like, you know.
And as a child, was that difficult, Lynda?
Yeah. I wanted to grow my hair long, but I was always toughed up down to the barbs with the other boys. Short back and sides.
Can I ask you, Lynda, how you dealt with that as a child? Because it must have been very, very difficult.
I created my own little world, my fantasy world. I used to have this, I loved the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy, and she was in this fantasy world, and I always thought I was going to wake up there at the nightmare and everything would be okay, and I'd be this heavy little girl. I convinced myself I was just living in a dream world. And so I felt all the time like I was floating. I never really felt I was there, like, you know, and you know, you'd be with other people in the room, but they'd be all like fading around me. I'd just be dismissed, in this mist all the time, you know. I wasn't seen outside. I think it was a self-protection.
Okay, so did you build a fantasy world around yourself, or how did you live in reality, feeling that you were a girl trapped in a boy's body?
Yeah, well, I secretly had my little dolls and things, like, you know, and I used to hang out with the little girls as much as I could, you know, and one girl saying, one time with the girl saying, oh, he's a real girl, and I was saying to myself, lovely, you know. And I honestly thought that, yeah, I am, but
did that make you feel accepted?
It kind of did. Like it's, you know, you grab as a child every little acceptance and you make it bigger acceptance than there actually is, and you pretend, you know, that yeah, this is it, everybody knows, and it's going to be all right, you know. But it was a long time coming to be all right, you know.
Okay, and when you're a young child, it's maybe easy to live in a fantasy world, Lynda, but obviously as you got to be an adolescent and body changes, was that even more difficult, or how did you feel accepted then, or did you still not feel accepted?
No, I hated the idea that I was going to grow into a teenage boy. I hated that idea. And seeing the other girls growing into little women, you know, and I was growing into something different. There was no way I could stop it, you know, because I didn't know anything about where was there doctors for this, was there places to go. I didn't know anything. I just said something has just happened to me that I can't stop, and I just wanted to die because I didn't want to grow into any more of that boy.
And that's a very serious situation to be in if you felt you wanted to die as a child. Is there anybody at all that you talked to or felt you could talk to?
I thought I could talk to the church because we brought a very Catholic family who believed in the church, and you were sent to Mass every Sunday, and you had to say your prayers every night. And I thought maybe priest would, and I told the priest, you know, and if you could think back to a child, and the best way a child could talk, I went to the confession and I told him, you know, the way You say, yes, my child, say 3 Hail Marys and bless yourself, and then tell all your sins. And I was kept muttering, and he said, speak up, child, don't be afraid. I said, I'm a girl. I said, you know, I don't know what's wrong with me, you know. And he let me, I actually did wet myself with the fry.
Okay.
You know, next to all the curtain just whoosh, back. And he bet the bejesus out of me, you know.
Right.
And the struggle to get away, I don't know if he meant to pull the clumps of my hair out, but he just got a grip of me and I was kicking him and got a hold of my hair and I pulled away and lumps of my hair came out and I ran out there with the blood streaming down my back. You know.
And did you go straight home or did you?
No, I went straight onto the road, closed my eyes and hoping the car was going to hit me.
Okay.
You know, but he didn't. That's the head was get off the road, you leave me, you.
So that wasn't a very positive experience at an early age.
No. The one person well, you know, you brought up in a Catholic family, you spoke that they could solve anything for you, and that was your safe haven, the church.
And this
you went to the confession box, and you know they're going to help you with your problems, which I thought because they. You know, they basically owned you. They had more power over you than your parents.
But this actually didn't work for you, Lynda. Can I ask you maybe if you need to fast forward a little bit? You must have held that for a very long time. And I'm just wondering at what age maybe you did find somebody that you could trust to tell?
I lost all faith in religious people. Because I knew then that I wasn't going to find it there, and I did think I was a fairly bad person, like you said I was.
So your self-esteem must have been really
gone. It was gone. It was gone, so I got into a lot of trouble in school, and I purposely wanted to be beaten to death by the masters, the teachers. I purposely became very antisocial, and kicking up and throwing things around and not wanting to learn. I didn't see the point in it, like, you know.
So there kind of was a self-destruct syndrome there.
Yeah. It was really, when I look back now, what it really was a cry for help.
Okay. And did you cry help? Did somebody listen eventually?
Well, eventually I just walked out of school, never went back. I was 11, I couldn't read or write. So even if I wanted to find somewhere, I couldn't have read the book to find it, you know, and because I couldn't tell anybody. But it's when I met Carmel, I was about 11, in Hardwick Street Flats.
And Carmel turned
all
out...
All the matrons used to hang out.
Carmel turned out to be the love of your life, so...
Absolutely.
I'm maybe going to ask you a little bit about that. So you met Carmel when you were 12, and you struck
I was 11, she was 12.
You struck up a really good friendship that turned into a little bit more.
Well, it turned into a lifelong relationship, marriage. We've done all the things that society thought a boy and a girl should do, you know.
And can I ask you, did Carmel know about your identity?
Yeah, I told her then in the flats that I couldn't be her boyfriend. You can imagine the way a child would try to speak, you know, but I could see every moment of that child. And, you know, when you ask me a question, the pictures in my head forever will be there, like, you know, and I feel sorry for that child, you know, but I'm a stronger adult now because I survived it. And she asked me to be her boyfriend. I told her I couldn't. Please don't tell anybody. They'll kill me.
Okay.
You know, which she probably would have. I was already the weirdo standing at the wall. They got fed up, hit me and spitting at me. You know.
But she didn't disown you, she stuck by you.
No, she stuck by me. Like, we had a brief period, about 2 or 3 years, when she went out of my life, you know, till I was about 16. And I found out she had been ill with meningitis,
right.
you know. And it was only when I seen her I was walking down Dorset Street again, on the Mitch, I used to, my parents taught I was in school all the time. They got even fed up. They wouldn't even tell my parents I wasn't going to school. They just didn't care then, you know, about you, like, you know.
So that was a random encounter where you bumped into Carmel again?
She was going up to visit somebody.
Okay.
That way, and I went towards her, calling her. Couldn't believe it was her, you know, and she changed so much. She was absolutely beautiful. Oh, lovely long blonde hair, you know. And then she ran towards me, couldn't believe it. We vowed never to leave each other again. And it was only illness that took her physically away.
So you actually got married?
Yeah.
And you had children?
Yeah.
So you lived in a relationship with Carmel where she knew that you were Lynda?
She knew I felt I wanted to be Lynda. We decided on the names together.
Okay.
And decided that we stick to the L, so that might help people to get more used to it. Go for we and tell them that, you know. And I said, well, you couldn't register it then, like, you know, the names, like, you know. It was later when the other rest of my names came. It was only when she was 9. I decided on the other name. She said, well, we'll call you Debbie. Lynda Debbie, you know, and she said, oh, Debbie, she said, it's real fun. She said, yeah, lots of fun, you know, and you always have a smile on your face, like, you know, and as she was dying, I said, it's going to be Lynda Carmel Debbie. She's going to live on with me for every moment of the rest of my life till we walk again together.
And unfortunately, Carmel's not with us today, but if Carmel was here, do you think you'd still be living together as a couple?
I could say definitely yes, but she's not here to answer that for herself, so a lot will probably say that's pure speculation or maybe wishful thinking, you know. But I do believe that we would have, you know. And
she's still in there.
light of legislation these days and all, would have been, you know, more acceptable for us, I say.
Can I just ask maybe what was the defining moment that you definitely become Lynda and you left Liam behind?
The moment when I woke up after gender reassignment, that was when I knew that anything about the boy was gone forever and the rest was just in people's memories, what they remembered, like, you know. Like, I had a joke with some of my relatives there the other day, and I said, I was brother they thought he had, and his sister that they forgot about, you know. And it was just it came out in a joke, like, you know. And it's a different level now. You know what I do realise is it was hard for all of them as well, you know, because they had the person they thought who was someone who was actually really somebody else, like, you know, being big, proud Dublin lads, like, you know, who was a bit of a knock, I suppose. Their ego and that, they were probably worried more about what effect socially that would have on them.
So this just wasn't a transition for you. This was a transition for the people around you and the people that were in your family.
Yeah. It's harder, you know, the older you get when you transition, because there's so many more people in your life to deal with and then has to deal with it, like, you know. It's far better if you can achieve it at a much younger age, you know, to who you truly are and where you fit in this life, you know. It makes life much easier, you know. So
given that you're now Lynda, do you feel that there's anything at all left about the young boy that you once were?
There's only the memories of a boy who wasn't a boy, you know. Who was a girl, but was forced to be a boy, and I still remember that tortured little soul. I every moment of that tortured little soul, you know, and I feel very sad for that little person. You know, and I know there's little persons like that out there today, probably feeling that way. And we've got to reach them out to them all. We've got to. Because legislation still doesn't protect them.
And I might get you to comment on that a little bit later for me, if you don't mind, Lynda. But just in that transition that you took, and leaving behind your other identity, you feel that people accepted it? Were you picked on? Were you bullied? Now that you're Lynda, you're a woman walking the streets as a woman.
Yeah.
Did you find much discrimination or hardship?
Well, I did get a lot of discrimination, a lot of slagging, jeering, you know, and from people where I lived, you know, smart remarks like, you know, you can guess what they all are. Laughing, a lot of laughing, walk by it and laugh, you know. Then you got isolated, all of a sudden you were on your own, you know.
Okay, so you come from a position of being a child where you were kind of isolated because you felt you were in the wrong gender, and then you change gender and you become isolated for other reasons.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hardship there.
Because, you know, we had to fight all the way for it to be recognised legally. And because there was so much biased against us politically, the political will wasn't there to give us our human rights and who we were. A lot of it was to do with religion in Ireland. So without that, you are never going to get any form. If you can't get legal recognition, the chances of getting social recognition were going to be very, very hard. You know, to just walk there like no other woman wouldn't have happened. Now that legal recognition has come, it will get better. You know?
And I might ask you in a few minutes, because you did help set up an organisation called Tenny, but before we finish the interview I might go back to that. Just to recap on a couple of things. You just changed your identity, you were out in the world, you were still getting a bit of maybe negative attention, but for you yourself, just in another light, how did you now feel as a woman? I mean, your fashion, your clothes, how did you feel in your new identity?
You see, this is it's a strange question to be asked, because I never felt like anybody else but Lynda.
Okay.
You know, I just felt myself, and every woman has different feelings in different ways. I just felt like this girl and this woman.
So did you actually then feel a freedom to be able to go into a shop and choose a dress and go in and buy makeup?
In the beginning, no, it'd be funny. You go in and you'd get some bad reaction, especially if you wanted to try something on, like, you know, because you wouldn't be fully looked that way. Your features would only be changing, like you're on hormones, and be trying to fix your hair in different ways and learn your makeup, you know, and you know, how much to wear, you know, how little to wear, like, you know. And there were funny moments too, but then I found, like, as time went on, like, they were kind of growing up in the shops, and they wouldn't bat an eyelid, you know, for you, like, you know, it looks like they were being trained more in it, like, you know, and that, and I suppose, like, the gay community in a way was responsible there, because there was a lot of campaigning going on long before I even entered the gay community to find my orientation.
Okay, so as part of a process in society, was becoming more aware. Just to say, Oscar Wilde has said, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong relationship, and Quentin Crisp has also said, even a marriage to oneself might not even last forever. So I'm asking you, Lynda Sheridan, do you like or even love yourself now? How would you answer that?
I do like myself and I do love myself, and you know, and I'm not a perfect woman. I'm a perfectly imperfect human being. That's who I am.
So what do you think? Do you have an image? Do you look at styles and emulate somebody that you like, or?
Well, I just, if I like nice dresses or something, I can buy them if I can afford them, like, you know. And I suppose I'm more on the feminine side of the sphere, you know, and I love feminine stuff, don't mind showing my hair like,
Okay.
you know.
So I know you're quite a bit of a dancer and an organizer, so like you're quite the social bee. How do you know, is that one of your hobbies, or was it always something you were interested in? Have you found a new lease of life?
I love to see people happy, and I love if I can make people happy even for brief moments, or I do a meet up wherever it is, or I do a disco and that, and I love to see people happy, and I love to, you know, because we're all damaged in some way, and it's finding a way through that and to accept that, like, you know, there's none of us are perfect, you know.
And Lynda, what would you maybe say, looking back in your life, what's the most extraordinary thing that has probably happened to you to date?
The most extraordinary thing was meeting Crowley, a young girl, matured years beyond her years, who I could say what I said to her, and she didn't give me a slap and run over screaming for the guards or something, you know?
Yes.
And she just stood there, like, you know, and I just seen this glow around her, like, you know, and that, and it was just the most incredible moment of my life. No moment will ever equal that, you know.
She seems to have had a really positive impact on your life, and something that you can draw on.
She was the making of me. She gave me life, that's why I see it. She gave me life, and she gave me her whole life.
And what, can I ask, was the time in your life that maybe was, or is, the most happy?
For me, as Lynda, the happiest moment of my life was when my body matched my soul of a woman, is when I woke up after the gender reassignment in hospital. And for the first time in my life, I felt I wasn't living a lie, you know.
And given that we've just come out of 2015, the referendum, equality for gay, lesbian, do you feel that's enough for a person like yourself who has made a transition in gender? Or is there anything else you feel that needs to be done?
There's one last road we need to go in the gender identity, and that's regards to children under 18. That was a big dilemma for me, whether I would accept a new birth certificate while a child was still being denied one, or a recognition of their gender identity, because I was that child.
Okay.
And I knew who I was. I didn't know why, but I knew. And there should be a program on to take them through that, and one of the biggest parts of the program should be puberty blockers. Because once things happen to you at puberty, it's much harder to change them around, you know, for boys and girls. I don't have to go into the explicit details, like, you know, you can understand where I'm coming from there. And it's harder to change those things, whether you can give children, which in some other countries they do.
Okay, so I suppose as far as equality is concerned, there's been a lot of huge movements, but what you are saying maybe is with regard to transgender children, or people with issues of identity, it maybe should be looked at a much earlier stage.
Oh, absolutely. From a child, education of it shall go back to primary school, you know, because there'll be children there feeling the way I did in primary school, because of there was nothing there. Left me a struggle, not only in my gender identity with my family and people I lost, it turned me into an introvert and a liar, you know.
So Lynda, can I ask you just on that question, is there any advice that you would give to young people maybe listening to this interview that might be worried about the future and some of the issues they may have in common with yourself?
I'd say, just say it. Because you'll waste 10, 20 years or more, like I did, worrying about reactions of people, and the reaction will still be the same as if you say it now, or you say it in 10 or 20 years. Only in 10 or 20 years or more, there'll be more people in your life to deal with that will have grown up with a person who wasn't the person you were. Mm.
And Lynda, who would you advise that they say it to, given that you had a very negative experience within a religious setting? Who would they actually speak to?
It depends. Like, if you have a brother or sister that you're close to, that you could say it. Once you get a brother or sister on your side, or even a mother, or a father, you know, if you're close to them, and say it, if they love you enough, they will find a way for you. And these days it will be much easier for you. There is help out there. There is organisations that can help them, you know, and see a way forward, you know, and they will know that the child, that this is real, that it's not a mental illness. It's you're psychologically damaged by it, because if you have to hide it, you know, and you could, you're depressed, you know, because you can't say it, but you're not mentally, it's not a mental illness, you know.
So you've overcome a lot of these issues over the past years, and you're here today and you've lived a really full life. What would you tell me that happiness is for you? Is it a physical phenomena? Is it a spiritual phenomena? Or is it mental?
It's a combination of things. I've had to fight first, let's say, to find myself as a female and to get people to try and accept that. And then I had to find myself in my orientation, which was another journey. To be accepted within a community where I finally believed I belonged in my orientation, that was another arduous journey for me. And, you know, I had to work hard on that to convince people, and because I never identified in regards to being trans or transgendered. I was always simply a girl, and then simply a woman. And then people were starting to get the idea that in the scene, and someone would ask me a question, are you transgender or what, or drag queen or something, you know, and then the people would answer for me, said, no, Lynda's just Lynda, no labels or tags. I said, wow, they're getting it, you know. And I wanted to have relationships with women, like, no, I say that it's great to have relationships. Well, a relationship with a woman, like, you know, and to be no more or less a woman than that woman, you know. And I think that has been very hard for, let's just say, transgender people. Just use the word, it's not going to bite me or set me on flames, you know. And that been very hard for them, I think, if they identified as being part of the gay community.
Lynda, do you think that labels confuse the issue for people? Is there a simpler way to do it? Get it that you're not an advocate of labels yourself.
There's always a simpler way to identify something or someone, rather than labels. Labels can go too far in isolating it, and I think that's what held up equality for, say, LGBT, GHIWXYZ people.
Okay.
You know, it just gets longer. It's ridiculous, like, it's ridiculous. You know, in regards to gender identity, the self-determination has solved that a lot, because if a person wants to live the rest of their life as a male or female, regardless of what surgery they have or not, they can do so, and they will get a new birth certificate to say they were indeed born male or female, which to them they were, but for their own personal reasons, which is their own business, they do not go on to have full gender reassignment, you know.
So, Lynda, can I ask, for some people who appear to be intolerant, and who maybe have been people who have bullied or slagged or abused verbally or physically, what advice would you maybe give those people when it comes to understanding something that you've been through? How should they become more aware of a situation where somebody may be trans or their identity may be something that they're not used to?
Well, I would say, well, I have said it to people who have jeered me or said things to me, and I've confronted them and asked, what is your fears about me? What do you fear about me being who I am? You know, or how does it affect your life? You know, and to be funny, in a way, some of them are going on the teachings of the church, but yet they never go to mass. But they've left the bias has been built into them for anyone who's not simply a boy or a girl, a man or a woman. You know, and this is with regards to gay, lesbian, bisexual people as well.
So are you asking people to be a bit more open-minded and possibly speak to somebody like yourself? How would somebody approach a Lynda Sheridan and have 20 questions about your sexual identity?
In my younger day, when they used to slag me, I just give them a thump and run up the road. But I can't run as fast these days, so I have to stop and talk to them. I just talk with people. I just talk. If people ask me a question, I just simply turn around like we're having a chat here, and I do be honest. I said, yeah, I've been through what's called gender reassignment. I was a boy, a girl, a boy, a bird, but I never felt like I was a boy. You know, and I said, like, you know, if there's anything else you'd like to know about it, like, you know, and if you want to know something about it, then I explain it, and then I find that they're actually very nice, and I've been in the roughest, toughest pubs, like, you know, on that, and calmed them, and then I've had them laughing with you rather than at me.
That's it. So if I was to ask Lynda Sheridan, how do you describe yourself in a sentence, what would you tell me?
There's one I got quoted for one time. It's a bit funny now when I think about it. And I said, when I was dad, I was the best dad in the world, probably because I was a woman. It's only a mother would give up so much for her children. You know, I gave a lot of my life up to bring them up through school and all, you know, and I you know, because I thought if I brought them into the world, I owed them. They didn't owe me anything.
So Lynda, you were sharing some difficult moments there about your childhood and how it felt to be more or less trapped in the wrong gendered body. And I'm just thinking, you grew up in an age when there was loads of figures around in the media and characters on television. For example, there was Danny LaRue, Larry Grayson, Ken Williams, a few other characters around. Did you at all identify with those, or did they horrify you, or did you feel that that was something totally different? Or could you identify with them, or maybe was there anybody else that you did identify with or that did inspire you in those days?
No, I didn't identify with them whatsoever in any way, other than wearing the lovely frocks they could afford to buy. Okay. I could have asked for a few of those, but no, I knew they were just totally entertainers, and they had no reason, you know, and they, you know, some of them were straight, some of them were gay. They were just entertainers.
So you didn't identify at all?
No, not whatsoever. You could say who to identify with. I've never seen some film, I think it was someone in the 50s, this woman who went through change, sex change it was called then, sort of gender reassignment, which is really what it is, because I didn't have a sex change, I was already a girl, you know. My body was just wrong, and I wished I was her. And just recently, the Danish girl kind of brought back my own life for Cromwell. I could have wrote that script. It was almost like they'd seen my documentary and wrote it for the 1930s for Lily. You know, so Lily will always have a little place in my mind. I suppose she really did start her all off then, in the first person to die for us all. God bless her.
Now I believe, Lynda, that you have written something recently and you'd like to consider it maybe as an epitaph, something that could be remembered when Lynda, when you know, when you're gone, as we all would like to remember something. Maybe you'd like to share that with us?
I would. It was written recently after the tragic death, just in the past few weeks, of my niece. And I thought to myself, why did I waste so much time? And so I wrote it, and it will be my epitaph. So this is to share with everybody, if you don't mind. I am woman. I am a woman of type and condition of existence, but no more or less a woman by nature than any other. I am in my own right to arrive into being the person I am today, and not a made identity by others. To be me, who laughs, cries, seeks love, and is open to all the anxieties. Because I am human, I am fallible, but with a choice to pursue not being so too much. In this time frame of life, I was dealt a challenge. The Joker laughed into my face, but I am here despite. Isn't that an ace?
Lynda Sheridan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.